cheap migrant labor results in more profit for capitalists. This is just a mathematical fact. If you want to know someone's true intentions, watch what they do and not what they say. Follow the money.
We will stop the flow of illegal immigration into this country. I'm convinced of that.
They might say this, but they actually do this.
And those people that hire illegals ought to be penalized. Admit you lose all of your standing from my perspective because you hired illegals in your home and you knew about it for a year. And the idea that you stand here before us and talk about that you're strong on immigration is on its face the height of hypocrisy.
The mass migration crisis has proven to be a very strange paradox that capitalist logic just can't solve. Just about every ardent supporter of capitalism is ferociously anti-immigration, at least that's what they say. So why is it that capitalist businessmen love hiring illegal immigrants so much? Well, it's very simple. The ultimate goal at the end of the day for capitalism is profits. That is their end game, and no one disputes that, not even capitalists themselves. So you just have to ask yourself, what would bring in more profits at the end of the day? Hiring a native citizen who you have to pay a decent wage, or just hiring an illegal migrant who will desperately do it for way cheaper? You don't have to be a math genius to figure out that the illegal immigrant will work for way cheaper and thus result in way more profits for their capitalist bosses. Capitalists hate regulation. They claim it kills businesses and stifles innovation. Yet, the hilarious irony they don't even realize is that their own anti-immigrant rhetoric, note that I said rhetoric and not policy, rhetoric is just what they say, while policy requires real action. Their own anti-migrant rhetoric, using their own logic, is inherently as big of an evil government socialist regulation as there is. If the government steps in and says, you can't hire illegal immigrants, by definition, this is government interference with the free market. The government is telling you who you can and can't hire, which according to capitalist logic should be absolutely devastating for businesses and the free market. And don't worry, you don't have to take my word for it. Let's hear it from a capitalist politician himself.
Okay, let me tell you a story. In 2017, 2018, when I was in the private sector, I was at a business conference dinner, and I was seated next to the CEO of one of the largest hotel chains in America. This is, I think, probably 2018. And the guy is going on and on about how much he hates Donald Trump. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why do you hate Donald Trump so much? Because again, I was sort of a Trump skeptic in 2015, and at this point, I was kind of starting to really get on the Trump train. And he said, well, the reason I hate Donald Trump, he says, is because Donald Trump's border policies have cut down the number of illegal immigrants. And because I can't pay illegal immigrants under the table anymore, I have to pay American workers, and they want much higher wages.
I don't know about you, but I'm really confused here. This is the same party that says minimum wage shouldn't exist because capitalist companies should be allowed to pay whatever they want. But now, when capitalist companies are able to actually hire illegal immigrants who are willing to work for well under the minimum wage, capitalist politicians step in to prevent capitalist businesses from exercising capitalist economic policies. What this all means is that even capitalists themselves, whether they want to admit it or not, have realized that capitalism and capitalist economic philosophies have failed. If capitalist philosophies worked, this illegal migrant crisis would have produced an absolute economic utopia for us to live in today. Illegal migrants working for cheap labor allows capitalists to fully exercise all their favorite capitalist principles. No government interference in the labor market? Check. More profits for the so-called job creator at the top? Check. Complete and utter deregulation? Check, check, and check. This is literally a trickle-down economist's wet dream. So why are capitalist supporters blaming the current state of the economy on illegal migrants? Why are they so fervently trying to impose evil socialist regulations and wanting the government to interfere with the labor market? And most importantly, why hasn't this massive influx of illegal migrant labor and capitalist profits led to a huge surge in wealth and prosperity for the rest of us like they promised us? We all know the answer to these questions. Capitalism just doesn't work anymore. I will give capitalists credit for one thing. At the end of the day, when you think about it, they did ultimately tell the truth and keep all of their promises. You see, when they promised you that their capitalist economic policies would create tons of jobs and wealth, they were actually right. They just never promised that the tons of jobs and wealth created would be for you. They indeed created millions of jobs for illegal migrants, but not for you. They indeed created tons of wealth for their billionaire buddies, but not for you. And this is how you definitively know the mass migration crisis is proof that capitalism has failed.